So Gary, if you could think back to 5 years ago when yourself, Jacek, and Nigel started Teckro, uh, what did you think the company would look like in 2020?
Being honest, I think it's probably difficult to say. I don't think we had a clear image of what the company would like. We definitely had a clear vision of where we wanted to get to, but we probably had the benefit of having a tech company before that was very much site focused. We had the experience of going through an acquisition, of working in a global CRO, of seeing every aspect of clinical trials. So we really started with that vision or that sense of mission that there had to be a better way. And if you could design the perfect clinical trial, where would you start? And that starting point for us was Teckro. It was the protocol. It was really creating a completely different digital engagement platform for sites. I think as well, when you start a company, you have to start obviously with a mission or that vision to guide you in terms of where you want to go, but also a sense of optimism and also a sense of uncertainty, because you have to prove you've got a right to exist in the world. You've got to show that you are solving a problem, you are making an impact, you are delivering real value, and there's an ROI attached with that. And that's very much on sort of the product and the service side of what we do, but also you'd never be able to do this stuff unless you could inspire or attract other people to join you in that mission. And I think we've been fortunate we've managed to do that. I think we've seen Teckro now in well over 70 countries. We've been across global phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. We've also worked in phase 1 and late phase. We're working with large proportion of the top 20 pharma. So it's been very positive in that sense. I think in many respects it's still a work in progress. We still feel a little bit like we're in first gear. We see so much potential ahead of us. And I think the industry is starting to respond to the changes that are happening recently with COVID-19 and stuff like that. So we see a lot of white space in front of us to go after and continue to push forward. But making an impact is really, I guess, that guiding kind of principle or philosophy that underlines everything we do. And started with that conversation Nigel, Jacek, and I had 5 years ago. It's just there has to be a better way.
Yeah. Just going back now to, you mentioned there just about, obviously in recent months, just the way the industry has been changed by the pandemic. How do you think, apart from most recent times, is there anything you think of that's kind of changed within the industry in the last 5 years? Any milestones or any significant differences from when we first started?
It's interesting. I was at Scope earlier this year, before the pandemic hit and shut everything down. And I just remember walking around the exhibition hall and kind of comparing it to one of the last really big industry events I was at was DIA back in 2011, just before our previous company was acquired. And what struck me was how little things had changed. When you walk around the room, it was still, by and large, CRO services, CTMS, data capture in terms of EDC, ECOA, ePro. Yes, the words patient and virtual were popping up more and more, but it was just struck me how little things had changed in sort of that sort of nine year kind of time window. So I think in that respect, it was disappointing a little bit, I guess, that there hadn't been more new ideas brought to bear. But again, it also encouraging from our point of view, because I think we are genuinely doing something that is transformative. It's also pragmatic in how we're doing it. We're bringing all stakeholders with us. But I think looking forward, if you look at the pandemic itself, I think what it's really done is highlighted the value that technology can bring to the industry, the speed at which we can do things. And I think it will, looking forward, I think pharma and CROs and other stakeholders will start to rely more on technology to make clinical trials work and to be successful.
Yeah, I think so. You touched just on how you think the industry is going to evolve over, say, the next 5 years into 2025. How do you see Teckro evolving with that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think, as I said earlier, I feel we in many respects, even though we've had significant success, we feel we're still in first gear in terms of where we think we can take the company, where we think we can go. The way I'd like to think about it is every clinical research site in the world, there's no reason why they can't be running or interacting with trials through Teckro. I think for every sponsor, everybody running a trial, whether it's an academic institution, whether it's a pharmaceutical company, I think wherever you have a protocol, I think Teckro is the perfect extension to really engage your sites. So I can see us getting to a point where the success we've had in terms of site adoption of the platform, the scale which we've managed to achieve even in these first sort of 4 or 5 years, with pharma companies, I could see that extending, accelerating over the next 5 years to the point where I think we would love it to be that everyone's first instinct is Teckro. Whether you work at pharma, CRO, whether you're a CRA, research coordinator, or an investigator. I think anything to do with the trial, I think the opportunity is there to ensure that your first instinct is to go to Teckro.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're living through an interesting time at the minute, and I think it's going to be an interesting next 5 years for the company and the industry. Mm-hmm. I think, and yeah. So here's to another 5 years.
Absolutely. Touch wood.
That's great, Gary. Thanks very much for talking to us today.